Wanna know who I am? Folks call me the Bone Man. Ain't my real name, but it's the one that stuck. Tonight on Requiem Radio, there's a place called Abbey Road where the music never really left. A studio where the notes still hang heavy in the air, thick as cigarette smoke and memories. Some say the dead don't leave the stage so easy. They just keep playing, if you're willing to listen and get back. Tonight's story is called Seance at Abbey Road.
Long after the Beatles split up and the world moved on, Studio 2 at Abbey Road stood quiet. The roar of screaming fans had faded. The bright flash of cameras was just a memory. And the building settled into a slow, steady rhythm all its own. But inside those walls, something lingered. A pulse beneath the polished floors and silent consoles. It was 1981 when the whispers began. I was a young engineer at Abbey Road with a love for vinyl's crackle and the warmth of old records. And I stayed late one night. I was remastering tracks for a reissue of Love Me Do, surrounded by the hum of tape decks and the faint glow of equipment lights. For company, I pulled a worn copy of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band off the shelf, setting the needle down with care. The studio filled with familiar sounds, brass, laughter, voices from a half-remembered era. But then the air turned cold. Not the kind of cold that tells you to pull your jacket tighter, but a sharp chill that made my breath cloud before me like smoke. The silence thickened, pressing close as the final track, A Day in the Life, began. The fluorescent lights flickered, caught in the strange rhythm of the music. I looked up and saw him, a figure seated at the piano in the shadowed corner. Round glasses, calm eyes, fingers poised over the keys. It was John Lennon, as real as if he'd just walked in. My heart raced all right. I said, voice shaking, very funny. But there was no laugh, no prankster hiding. The figure played a single, resonant chord, the final, aching chord of a day in the life, and then vanished, leaving behind a faint scent of cigarette smoke and something sweet like the faintest trace of marshmallow. From that night forward, the studio was never quite empty. Others heard him too. Footsteps echoed down the hall when no one was there. Faint strains of Come Together slipped from locked rooms. Tape decks rewound themselves again and again, looping John Lennon's voice whispering, living is easy with eyes closed. The staff shrugged off the oddities at first, tired minds, electrical glitches. But the longer they worked there, the more they whispered about the ghost of John, or perhaps the echo of his music woven into the very fabric of the studio. Not to haunt, but to jam, caught between the grooves of vinyl and the folds of memory. If you ever found yourself alone in Studio 2 and hummed in my life, some said the studio would hum back. A a faint echo of a voice that never really left. In the winter of 1986, a group of session musicians, curious and bold, gathered after hours. They brought a candle, an old photo of John Lennon, and a record player. They played Strawberry Fields Forever backward, testing the old rumor that the Beatles hid secret messages in their music. Suddenly, the candle flickered violently and blew out, plunging the room into darkness. Then, from the mixing console came a voice, thick with the unmistakable Liverpool accent. Here's another clue for you all: the walrus was poor. Every one of them bolted, leaving the studio silent once again. By then, I was a veteran of Abbey Road, and I often returned late at night when the world was asleep. I'd sit in the dark and hum softly. More often than not, the song was in my life. And sometimes, just sometimes, the silence would answer. A faint melody in my headphones, the ghostly reply of a friend who had never truly gone away. There was no bitterness in this haunting, no menace. It was music unfinished, a story suspended in time. The ghost of John Lennon was no tormentor, but a keeper of the flame, an eternal artist caught in the echo chamber of a studio that held its secrets close. If you stand still enough in that studio, listen long enough, you can hear it. The pulse beneath the floorboards, the murmur of a voice reminding you to listen, to learn, and above all, to remember. In Studio 2 at Abbey Road, the music never really ends. It just changes key and waits patiently for the next player to join in the song.
You've been listening to Requiem Radio, where music bleeds into the supernatural. And that was Seance at Abbey Road. Some songs outlive the people who made them, and sometimes the people don't mind sticking around to play the encore. Goo 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 joob. Ain't gonna be no more tonight. Y'all rest easy, and don't let the dark drive you home.